stop treating everything like a transaction and start talking to people.
I build it up.
Welcome to Earned Influence. This is an exclusive Wrench Turner's podcast series. It's a series about credibility built through work. Tonight, and for every episode that you're going to watch across the summer, we will be having 3 awesome women front and center from fixed ops that live, eat, and breathe fixed ops every day. Whether they come from a dealership or independent, automotive, motorcycle, HD, or even material handling, these wonderful folks work with, lead, or provide service to technicians. They see the challenges, the stress, the anxiety, and the strife that we go through every day as technicians. They have a very different perspective on what we should do to help course correct the industries that we work in, that we love the trade of being a mechanic. For this series, each one of the 4 panelists, myself included, are going to ask a question that the others are going to respond to. That means each episode or season will be broken down into 4 episodes, all for your ease of consumption. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Earned Influence, and this is Wrench Turner's podcast. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Earned Influence, and I have 3 wonderful guests for you to listen to today across a couple of episodes. We're going to be talking about some interesting stuff, some thought-provoking stuff, some perspective, most importantly. So first and foremost, to meet the first set of panels for Influence, I'd like you to meet Jami, Mindy, and Racheal. And they're going to go through, give a quick introduction, and then we're going to dive right in. Jami, tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
I'm Jami Alexander. I've been in the industry going on my 29th year. I've got experience from, parts, fleet, big trucks, hydraulic broom repair, so I think having, at least the 4 pillars of the industry has helped me, remain successful.
Awesome. Mindy, what's your background?
Hi, my name is Mindy. I am the service manager here at Colonial Subaru. I started in the auto industry when I was 19 as a part-time receptionist, and I've been doing it ever since. Fell in love with the automotive industry, and it's been the best thing ever for me.
Awesome. Racheal, introduce yourself a little bit.
Sorry. My name is Racheal Bright. I have been in the material handling industry for 12 years. I started as a service advisor when I was 21 and worked my way up to service manager for one of our local branches. Really passionate about developing strong teams and developing processes that help streamline anything that we work on, whether it's how we open service calls to how technicians make certain repairs. I've really grown to love the material handling industry, and I'm excited to see where it's headed.
Spectacular. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't catch that, we have 3 awesome individuals with 3 very different backgrounds surrounding fixing things. We have dealership experience, we have independent experience, and we have material handling. Now, if those who don't understand what material handling, that's forklifts, essentially. There's more to it than that, but basically, at the end of the day, we're still fixing stuff as technicians. It doesn't matter what it is. So it's interesting to get 3 very different, shall we say, histories in the career of fixed ops, talking about something specific that's going to challenge them all. Now, each one of these guests have brought their own question that we're going to ask each other today, and we're all going to answer. That way, again, perspective. That is the most important thing to come from this entire series. So, Mindy, what's the question that you brought for us to answer today?
Is one thing dealership service departments need to stop doing immediately if they want to improve customer retention?
This is a good question. This is a very good question. Jami, how do you want to field that?
I think the one thing that they need to stop immediately is the lack of communication and accountability from everything being a different department. When something goes wrong, which most people, like I'm a consumer, things will go wrong, right? And if somebody will own it, but generally speaking, in my personal experience from the customer side and from working in the dealership, is when we have an upset customer, the disconnect goes like this. Nobody takes accountability and they blame each other. And I think it creates trust issues and directly plays into retention.
Agreed. I love that. Being able to work together cohesively. Had this question come up in the group chat earlier on in this week, and I'll talk about it in a bit. Racheal, because of your experience and your history, not working in an automotive dealership where both Mindy and Jami have been, how does this pertain to you in material handling where you don't deal actively with 100 customers a day?
It translates, I mean, exactly. When you first asked the question, my initial thought was to stop waiting to give the customer bad news when they call. Like, let's say that we order a part, the part doesn't come in. It's so much better if we go ahead and proactively call the customer to tell them than if they call and we have to say, oh, sorry, the part actually didn't come in. We're not going to be there tomorrow, or we're not going to finish your truck. Often, if we kind of get in front of it, as we say, and go ahead and give them that bad news and be transparent, they are much more likely to do repeat business with us, and they have a little bit more respect for us because they didn't have to call. They didn't have to hunt us down to figure out what was going on. So along the same lines as what Jami said, really communication is what we need to start doing, and I guess stop leaving it up to the customer to reach out, or stop leaving it up to other departments to fix those problems.
Awesome. Now let's go. I want to go back to Jami here for a second. In terms of retention and kind of, shall we say, leapfrogging off of what Racheal said, what is something that you have done specifically in any one of the places you've worked in your career to kind of take that customer retention, proactive communication to the next level? Is there something specific that you can tell the audience that you did and then tomorrow it instantly got better?
Well, there's a couple different things that we do is a process in place, to Rachel's point, of, a 2:00 check-in, whether it's that quick text of, hey, you're still in queue, or, we're waiting on the parts for arrival, keeping that going on. But most importantly, it's having that one point of contact. Again, putting myself on both sides of the fence, when there's 3 or 4 different people that are involved and the messaging becomes so messy that we don't really feel like there's resolution coming, having that one point of contact, so the message is getting, handled, and, the complaint or, the dissatisfaction is being heard, or at least giving the impression that it's being heard.
Awesome. Now, Mindy, you bringing up the question, what's something that you are doing to curb that, perhaps the customer loss so that it is more like customer retention you're talking about being proactive and proactive communication. Sorry, Jami and Racheal are talking about proactive communication. Is there something that you're doing in the store that is perhaps above and beyond what is normal, that you would suggest is perhaps normal, that you've done as an outside the box thinking to help with customer retention in that way?
So absolutely. One of the things that we do is to stop making it so transactional. I feel like sometimes you come into a dealership and you walk to a stranger, they take your keys and they're order takers. Where here we go out to their vehicle, we walk around with them, we talk to them, we look at their bumper stickers so we can see what they like if they've never been there before. We make notes in the system if they've named their car or if they have any other special things about them. But over time, you get to know a customer, and that builds trust, which makes customers more willing to come in and want to come to you, because there's a lot of competition these days, especially when dollars are tight. There's a lot of aftermarket places. So to stand out as a dealership, you have to build that loyalty. And the only way to do that is to build a relationship, get them to trust you, and be willing to have friendships with them, because it really does make a difference. If somebody tells you that something happened, for example, today, our customer, her husband died, unfortunately, while the car was in service. She was in a loaner car during it. Horrible timing, unfortunately. The car's been here for about a week. Well, about 2 weeks. He died about a week ago. So that day we ordered a wind chime, got it sent to her house on Amazon with a nice little note. And then today we offered to bring the vehicle back to her rather than make her come in our dealership. So we delivered the car to her. We had dinner for her. And we went and got her spaghetti, baked spaghetti, a cake, and some flowers with a sympathy card that we all signed. And we brought it to her. And the reason why is because we want her to feel like we care, because we do care, because people will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And I think that is tremendously important in our industry, to care and to really legitimately care.
That's a bar right there. They won't necessarily remember what you said, but they will definitely remember how you feel. I botched that completely, but I felt
I
that
botched
in my
it
soul.
too. So.
But now
It's my fault, and I botched.
it's your fair enough. Now, Racheal, to that point, is there something you're specifically doing, like say either a tool, a piece of software, a process that you've implemented to maybe help take that proactive communication to the next level?
Yes, we call it. So we do 2 things. One, we call it working our whip, which is your work in process, and just constantly going through that. If we're waiting on a part, checking to see if that part came in, if there's any updates that we need to give customers. And then we use a tool, it's called Schedule Board, but it's basically like a big a digital Gantt chart. And you can look and see what the technicians are scheduled for that day. And so if it doesn't come, let's say a part doesn't come in, you move that block to a different day, call the customer, and then not only are you giving the customers updates, that's also how you build out your technician schedule for the next 3 to 5 days. So by being proactive and really paying attention to what's going on with those existing service calls, the rest, if you do that, everything else kind of falls into place. But the communication with the customer is key, because if we're not telling them when we're scheduled to come back, then it doesn't.
That's awesome. So taking different tools that may not necessarily be automotive or mechanic specific and utilizing so that you can ensure that you've got active communication with the customer. That's an awesome. I like life hacks that are applied to the technician space. That's awesome. So like I said, I was going to bring up earlier, talking about how to deal with customer retention, what to do. What do we need to stop or change? One of the challenges that we have in the mechanic trade is, and I can't remember who said it, but we treat everything very transactional, from technician to advisor to service manager, as an aggregated average in the middle. It's very transactional. I bring a car in, I fix the car, it goes. I bring a car in, I fix the car, it goes, and go on and so forth. What we forget is that those cars, yes, they're big, heavy, inanimate objects, but they're owned by families. They're owned by people. They're owned by someone trying to get to work, someone trying to get to soccer practice, someone just trying to survive. That vehicle, that tool, that forklift represents something that generates an income or a livelihood or a something outside of what its based function A to B is. We provide a safety solution service to make sure they're safe to go do the things that either make them an income or take their family and have experiences. When we take that whole life part out of the equation, that's when it becomes transactional. We need to pull that life, that relationship, that person back into that car. And remember, as technicians, I'm not doing a VMPI to try and make more money. I'm not doing a VMPI to, try and sell more work. I'm doing that video inspection, or I'm doing that extra work, or I'm going that extra mile so that the family that owns this vehicle are safe and can live, not just fix the thing. And I think that's one of the things that we've lost. It's far too transactional. So you still have an obligation to take care of the customer first. Yes, it's the car, but you're taking care of the customer first. So that's really awesome. I really appreciate the question, Mindy. That's again, awesome first question. Thank you very much, folks, for checking out this first episode. Make sure you tune in for the next one.
Thank you for watching. Please share, subscribe, and tune in for the next episode.